Speedrunning is an interesting activity. Not only can it give you a great sense of personal accomplishment, but it can also single-handedly revive a game's community. Some smaller games are only able to stay relevant through this model of self-challenge, and some games are made by it. But what happens when you choose to speedrun a game that is so small you can count the amount of players on one hand? A game where the entire community may just be a group of friends. How much are you able to accomplish, and how far are you willing to go to stay on top? This is the story of how 5 people broke a game you've never even heard of.
Come on. Go, 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 go. Holy sh! 316 on the dot. Ah, yeah, baby. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. That's the sub 3! That's the sub 3.
Before we get too far into this, I have an announcement to make. This game's current world record sits at just above 2 minutes, and as a collective, we think we've almost hit the human limit of how fast this game can be beaten. But thanks to the sponsor of today's video, I'm able to put out a bounty of $100 US to the first person who can bring the record below the 2-minute barrier. This won't be easy, but what's even harder is not being able to watch the shows you want to, stream the music you like, or even browse the internet in private. This is where today's sponsor, Atlas VPN, enters the picture. Last month I finished watching Better Call Saul, one of my favorite shows of all time. But in order to finish it before getting spoiled, I had to pay for both a Netflix and an AMC Plus subscription, which cost me over $25 a month. Little did I know, I could have cut that cost in half by using Atlas VPN. Right this second, Atlas VPN is running a huge discount, which gets you a 3-year membership for $199 a month, which you can access by using my link in the description below. It's super easy to set up and use, and if you for some reason don't like what you got, there is a 30-day money-back guarantee on your order. Atlas VPN lets you stream content from around the world that may not be available where you live, and I've been using it to stream music early and of course rewatch the last season of Better Call Saul. But it does so much more than just that, even helping block ads and malware from your computer. With unlimited device coverage, worldwide streaming, and a money-back guarantee, you'd be crazy to pass up this no chicanery deal. No, you didn't mishear me. This game can be beaten in just around 2 minutes. But it didn't start out that way. I've kept you waiting long enough. What is this mystery game? Well, back in 2021, I ran a contest where viewers could submit their own custom-made games to me, so I could play them on stream and give a reward to the best game I played. I expected, as with any community-ran contest, that I'd be getting a ton of joke submissions, with people just trying to be funny, and to be fair, I did. Almost every single game I had played up until the very end of that stream was just kind of a gag. Up until the final game of the night, where a game developer and a viewer of mine named Cassie sent me this, a small game titled Groundy and Skya. Heavily inspired by the Super Mario Bros. Series of games, this puzzle platformer took me by surprise. From what looked to be a simple run and jump adventure, it had a ton of creative ideas. The main gimmick of the game being using these different colored blocks to give yourself height, press switches, and even platform around by hanging off the edges of cliffs. It had a ton of variety for movement, and in my eyes, tons of potential for a speedrun. After I got done playing through the 42-level adventure, with around a 15-minute clear time, I decided to go back and route a mini speedrun, since it was the first game that I had been sent that really hooked me in. Trying to find bugs, glitches, and optimizations that could add a bit of spice to the normal gameplay. It started off simple enough, just finding optimal times to jump, where to place blocks to get the fastest shortcuts, and memorizing the layouts for future run-throughs. All went well and good, up until something weird happened. I was practicing attempts on screen 31, a level that required a bit of backtracking to get through, trying to see if I could find some way around this room's original puzzle. So what you're supposed to do here is hit the blue button to turn the red blocks solid, toss this yellow block into the wall above the purple switch, run back to the start of the area, make the blue blocks turn solid, then platform your way up to the level end sign. A process that takes roughly around 8 seconds. We had just discovered a glitch that allows you to get yellow blocks stuck in mid-air. By holding crouch and dropping a yellow block next to a colored tile, it would kind of just stick to it, allowing you to create mid-air platforms, and this saved quite a bit of time. You were able to place the yellow one down, toggle the switch, then jump around on top of it, cutting this room's time in half. While practicing this, however, I had managed to not just place down the block, but teleport up on top of it. And this was the first sign of the cracks beginning to show. Now from here on out, things are going to get a lot more complicated. We realized that the reason the warping glitch occurs is the game trying to push you out of the block you just dropped, but it was still a bit finicky. Sometimes you would get pushed down, left, or right, and with our current understanding, it all just seemed a bit random. But at least we knew the game wasn't all too polished, and there was going to be more found that would shape the scene. Now, level 31 is kind of the big first difficult level in the run, and the only thing previous that you would even consider difficult was 15, where you had to do some decently precise box throws. But that doesn't mean that the levels after 31 were easy too. Level 39 is one of the big standouts, with a red death plane covering up the middle of your screen. You're supposed to use these orange boxes, which are able to be crouch dropped anywhere in the air, to create your own platform over the death plane and to the end level sign. This was difficult in not just the speedrun but also the casual game, with another red lip being located near the end of the level that would catch unsuspecting players. And so, with level 31 being figured out, we made our way to 39 to find the optimal bridge placements. Spoiler alert, there aren't any. This level took ages to do, and it was one of just 2 run killers, the other we'll touch on soon. It felt like anything we tried doing was just slow and clunky. It was frustrating, having to reset after placing a block just out of reach of the character, dying over and over, and I was starting to lose hope. Luckily, there is a fast way to reset in this game. By hitting the O key, your level will reset to the starting position. I was using this key a lot in testing, since it allows you to take more in-game risks with less time loss. I even started using it to skip through Groundy's death animation. And this is when things got interesting. Take a look. What? How is this possible? I'm standing inside the death plane, right? Well, it turns out, resetting right as you die makes Groundy invincible, allowing you to just walk through death planes. It even keeps you alive when you fall into the void. One thing to note, however, is that if you're holding a block while touching the plane, the block will forever disappear, and occasionally have your jump height, so these planes are still a bit dangerous. At this point in the stream, I had thought I had found it all. Upwarping tech, invincibility, the whole works. So I played one final definitive run before ending my stream for that night, and it went a little something like this. On screen 5, I use a strategy we called nut hanging, don't ask, to skip the left half of the room. On screen 6, I use these death planes to activate the invincibility glitch, since it carries between levels. In 15, I immediately throw the yellow block and time my jumps to land on the purple platforms. In level 18, I try to use this side warp glitch through the middle pillar, fail, and attempt the level the normal way. In 22, I place one orange block in midair to create a platform for me to jump on. In 23, I use a midair orange block placement and a nut hang to bypass the intended puzzle. It barely saves any time, but it's a lot easier than trying to do the intended route fast. I missed the upwarp in 31 and am forced to jump around to the yellow block, losing a couple of seconds. Level 39 goes well enough, already being invincible, allowing me to place blocks in a tower along the final wall and just jump up. And in level 40, I'm able to take advantage of a unique glitch to scale the side of these blocks and make it over. For some reason, if you jump into the left side of the colored blocks, you're able to scale the side of the blocks with a nut hang. This allows me to once again skip building a small bridge across and just sparsely place enough blocks along the wall to jump up. But remember when I mentioned that there was a second run killer past level 39? Well, it's right here at 41. Level 41 is an excavation level, having you pick up and throw blocks out of the way to access the sign. Problem is, you can't pick up a block if it's below another block, forcing you to have to pick up a block, jump, and then throw it to avoid the blocks sticking together, then repeat that same process 17 more times. It's no surprise that doing this perfectly is tough, and on this attempt I only lost about 2 seconds from messing up twice, allowing me to crouch on through and take out the Sea King for a final time of 3 minutes and 24 seconds flat. For what we had discovered at the time, this run seemed like the gold standard. Sure, there were some optimizations to be made and some mistakes to be corrected, but I was satisfied with my performance. Others, however, took it a step further. Cassie, the game's developer, took it upon herself to update the game to add a proper speedrun timer, but vowed to leave everything else the same. The addition of the timer made running the game all the more accessible, and thus, my Discord's obsession with this obscure little scratch game exploded. People were so invested in this game, we had to make a brand new channel to keep the general conversation flowing normally. And not even an hour after my stream finished, attempts came flooding in. The first runner who began to make attempts at the record goes by the name of Bone Reaper. Bone had only just recently picked up the game and was quickly lowering his time down to go equal with mine, getting into the low 330s, before someone else as well picked up the game. The developer Cassie, seeing the new potential in Groundy, started to submit her own runs to the Discord, and after only a couple of attempts, managed to get a 3:16, nearly 10 seconds above my previous record.
Come on. Go, 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 go. Holy sh! 3:16 on the dot. Ah, yeah, baby. Oh my god.
How was a 10-second time save this early on even possible? Well, for starters, she managed to get the pillar warp in level 18, saving multiple seconds over the failed attempt in my run, as well as just a better executed back half of the run. This sparked something inside of me, to be so utterly defeated just mere hours from my last record, so I fired up the game late that night and began grinding more attempts. This is when the game went from just a fun competition between friends to a fully fledged war. Over the span of the next 3 days, this record would be lowered by over a minute, as new strategies were being found and new changes to the general routing were discussed. And it all began with the newest, biggest time save, a dead even tie between myself and Cassie, at 3 minutes, 6 seconds, and 26 milliseconds. Within 30 seconds of each other, we had both finished the game at the exact same time, down to the very millisecond. And you can't leave things on a tie, right? And so that night, we still kept going. This was it, the first minute barrier. With both of us being within seconds of it, it was really anyone's game at this point. Either one of us could just slide in and... Oh. Truer words had never been spoken. With Cassie nabbing the first sub-3 time, now is as good as any to discuss how the record seemingly dropped 20 seconds out of nowhere. Well, where previous runs would sometimes reset rooms if you for some reason jumped the gun and walked off the edge, runs were now being played at a level where resets were rendered obsolete. If you were to take the time to reset, you would most likely still lose the record regardless. There's some smaller things like tossing this box out in front of you rather than crouching helped save some time in the long run. But it was becoming apparent to us that we were nearing a plateau point. I was able to bring down the time to a 2:57, which ended up being the final new record set for the day of October 8th. October 9th came with some interesting discoveries. For one, those mysterious clips were figured out. The way the game's collision is set up is that the game will wait until the player isn't inside of a block before it becomes fully solid. And depending on your position to that block and the way that you're moving, it can spit you out in many different ways. For example, if we were to take the pillar clip, you have to be facing and drifting slightly left when placing the box, and then exit the box on the leftmost corner. So the game will then send you into the opposing direction, that being to the right. The same logic applies to the upwarp in level 31, where you need to be moving directly and straight down after placing the block, so the game warps you straight up. Any deviation from these strategies will get you sent in the wrong direction. One thing I neglected to mention though is that this trick is frame perfect. In order for the displacement to take place, and not just have the box act intangibly, you have to enter and be moving in the opposite direction on the exact frame the block solidifies. While the trick is entirely possible, most runners from here on out will opt to not go for it, as the tricks are decently far into the run and not worth the potential time loss. And with this brand new day would come a brand new runner, Faku28. A name that should forever impress any future runners of this game. To put it in perspective, by the end of this saga, Faku would literally be the only remaining runner. This dude was so good at the game that everyone else, including myself, had to quit because nobody could come close to this man's perfection. But as always, it starts with some humble beginnings. A 2:54. But not just any 2:54. A 2:54 with very visible mistakes. Faku reset multiple levels, made mistakes in a couple of the run killers, and still managed to get a new record by 3 seconds. The crazy thing is, nothing stood out about this run. Everything looked normal, but it was just done so quickly. Faku was a master at tight movement, picking up boxes on the first available frame, not missing a single nut hang, and knowing every nook and cranny of each level. This was a wake-up call for the rest of us to stop messing around. So I fired back with a 2:52, smugly thinking I could put this newcomer in his place. Then he came back 10 minutes later with a 2:46, a near flawless run. Later that same day, another record was set by Faku, with a 2:40 flat. Another run where Faku resets levels yet still comes out on top. 2:40 was yet another big milestone to beat, as we had previously thought 2:50 to be close to the limit, and of course it wouldn't be myself, Cassie, or Bone Reaper taking it to this point. As in the exact same day, Faku scored a 2:39, ending off October 9th with a bang. There was still room for improvement in this game, and the theory crafting was going off the rails. We had now discovered a bug called misalignment, which places your character at a Y value of any half integer. Because of this difference in height, you aren't able to pick up blocks in a 2-tile high tunnel, since you're just a little bit too high up. The only way to reset this alignment would be to do a full hop jump to re-land on the ground, which isn't possible inside of a tunnel like this, which makes level 41 all the more daunting. Understanding the jank involved with level 41, as well as an extended knowledge of the up and side warps, everybody was waiting for the next big skip to be found. But in the meantime, the record was broken by somebody new. Enzo Guy had set a record of 3:38. As with every single record though, it wouldn't stand long, as Faku would do the unthinkable. Why bother trickling the record slowly down to 3:30? Why not just skip right down to 2:27? Faku had once again played a flawless game, the only strats missing being the upwarp in 31 and the pillar warp. Everything else was borderline flawless. Sure, again, small movements here and there could take it down, but nobody wanted to try anymore. Faku had destroyed this game, and it wasn't even close. The only thing Faku had even slightly messed up was level 41, where he was misaligned on the y-axis and had to do a full hop to reset. The perfectionist that he is, Faku would change that by setting a 2:23 an hour later, with no misalignment in sight. Then a 2:19. Faku was unstoppable. By being too good at this game, he managed to make himself the undisputed king of Groundy and Skya speedrunning. In less than 3 days' time, the record would shift from a 3:24 down to a 2:19, over a minute of time save in a game that is barely over 10 minutes casually. To this day, optimizations are still being found, albeit slowly. Outside of warping, misalignment, nut hanging, block sticking, invincibility, more strategies have been enacted, including ones that make level 41 more manageable. If you mash the reset button while touching the end level flag, it stores the transition until you stop mashing. You can then position yourself in the same spot as a block would be in the next screen over. And when you quit mashing to move on, you'll pick up whatever block is in that spot and spawn with it in your hand, allowing level 41 to be beaten much quicker and much easier. In fact, this isn't even the only category for the game. There's Hungry %, which has you picking up every collectible cookie in each level, or Vomit %, which is minimum cookies. There's even a category for minimum jumps. I'm confident that there's more to this game that we haven't discovered yet, and I'm ready to be blown away, and that's where the bounty comes in. Not only am I asking you to beat the world record, but to also bring it down another 10 seconds. Currently, the record sits at a 2:09. The first person to submit a run with a time of 1:59xx in the Groundy and Skya Discord server will get 100 United States dollars from me. Go wild, and let's blow this random scratch game up to the moon. More information about the bounty will be below, along with a link to the Groundy and Skya Discord server. Thanks again to Atlas VPN for sponsoring today's video. Thank you guys for watching. I've been BD1P. Peace out and goodbye.